Even the smallest changes in our daily routine can create incredible ripple effects that expand our vision of what is possible. Spiritual transformation rarely arrives in the form of dramatic, thunderous breakthroughs. More often, it enters quietly disguised as a small shift in attention, a subtle change in habit, a gentle pause between reaction and response. It begins with something so seemingly insignificant that the ego overlooks it entirely, waking up 5 minutes earlier to sit in silence, taking one conscious breath before speaking, choosing gratitude instead of complaint, listening instead of interrupting, observing a thought instead of becoming it. From the outside, these changes appear trivial, but from the inside, from the perspective of consciousness, they are revolutionary. Because each small act of awareness interrupts the automatic patterns that have silently shaped our lives for years, and once interruption begins, transformation becomes inevitable. Our lives are built upon routines. From the moment we awaken to the moment we sleep, much of what we do is guided not by deliberate choice, but by conditioned behavior. We brush our teeth without thinking. We check our phones automatically. We respond to stress with familiar emotional reactions. We replay mental narratives without questioning their truth. These routines form the invisible architecture of our existence. They determine how we perceive reality, how we relate to others, and how we interpret our own identity. Spiritually speaking, routine is not the enemy. Unconscious routine is. When actions are performed mechanically, without presence, they reinforce the illusion that we are separate from the flow of life. They create rigidity in perception, narrowing our vision of what is possible. They convince us that our habits are our destiny. But the moment awareness enters routine, everything begins to shift. Consider the simple act of drinking a cup of tea or coffee. Most days, it is done absent-mindedly, a means to an end. But imagine approaching it differently, noticing the warmth of the cup, the aroma rising from its surface, the sensation of each sip. In that moment, routine becomes ritual. The act itself has not changed, yet the experience is entirely different. Presence transforms the ordinary into the sacred, and this is the essence of spiritual practice, not escaping daily life, but inhabiting it fully. When awareness enters small moments, it creates space between stimulus and response. In that space lies freedom, the freedom to choose compassion instead of irritation, patience instead of haste, curiosity instead of judgment. Each choice may seem minor, but it sends ripples through consciousness. A single intentional act influences not only your internal state, but also your interactions with the world. If you begin your day with mindful breathing, you may feel calmer. That calmness affects how you respond to emails, how you navigate traffic, how you communicate with colleagues or loved ones. Your patience may prevent an argument. Your clarity may inspire cooperation. Your kindness may uplift someone who was struggling silently. That person in turn may extend kindness elsewhere. What began as a private moment of mindfulness becomes a chain reaction of positive influence. Spiritual growth is not isolated. It is interconnected. Every conscious choice contributes to a larger field of awareness shared by humanity. One of the most profound consequences of small changes is the expansion of perception. When you successfully alter a minor habit, perhaps replacing morning worry with gratitude, you discover something empowering. Change is possible. This realization challenges deeply held beliefs about limitation. It weakens the narrative that says, "This is just who I am," or "Things will never be different." If you can change one thought, perhaps you can change another. If you can shift one reaction, perhaps you can shift a pattern. If you can transform one moment, perhaps you can transform a day. Gradually, the boundaries of possibility widen. You begin to see that identity is not fixed, that emotional responses are not predetermined, that awareness allows for flexibility where rigidity once prevailed. This expanded vision is itself a form of awakening. Spiritual development is cumulative. Just as drops of water can carve stone over time, consistent small changes reshape consciousness. A daily practice of reflection strengthens insight. Regular acts of kindness deepen empathy. Moments of forgiveness dissolve resentment. Over weeks, months, and years, these subtle adjustments accumulate, altering neural pathways, emotional tendencies, and relational dynamics. Eventually, what once required effort becomes natural. Calmness replaces anxiety. Presence replaces distraction. Compassion replaces indifference. The person you become may seem entirely different from who you were, yet the transformation occurred through countless tiny steps. Despite their simplicity, small changes often encounter resistance. The mind prefers familiarity, even when it causes suffering. Habitual patterns feel safe because they are known. Altering them can trigger discomfort, doubt, or impatience. You may question whether a brief meditation matters, whether a moment of gratitude makes any difference, whether pausing before reacting is worth the effort. But spiritual insight reminds us that significance is not measured by scale but by direction. A slight adjustment in course can lead to an entirely different destination. Trust that consistency outweighs intensity, that gentle persistence surpasses sporadic enthusiasm, that meaningful change unfolds gradually, like the dawn replacing night. Simple practices can serve as gateways to deeper awareness. Taking 3 conscious breaths before beginning a task, expressing appreciation daily, observing thoughts without attachment, choosing silence over unnecessary speech, offering help without expectation. These acts require minimal time, yet their impact extends far beyond the moment. They cultivate mindfulness, humility, generosity, and patience, qualities that enrich not only personal well-being, but also collective harmony. As small changes reshape perception, life itself begins to feel different. Challenges become opportunities for growth rather than threats. Relationships become spaces for understanding rather than competition. Work becomes an avenue for contribution rather than mere obligation. The world appears less hostile, more interconnected, less rigid, more dynamic. And with this shift comes creativity, the ability to imagine new solutions, new paths, new ways of being. Possibility expands. You realize that fulfillment is not reserved for extraordinary circumstances. It is available within ordinary moments approached with awareness. Spiritual awakening is not always a dramatic revelation. It is often a quiet unfolding that begins with modest adjustments in daily routine. A mindful breath, a kind word, a grateful thought. Each small change is like a pebble dropped into the still waters of consciousness, sending ripples outward, influencing perception, behavior, relationships, and ultimately reality itself. Over time, these ripples intersect, amplify, and transform, and what once seemed impossible becomes imaginable. What once felt distant becomes attainable. What once appeared fixed becomes fluid. By honoring the power of the subtle, you participate in the ongoing creation of a life that reflects not just habit but awareness, not just limitation but possibility. For even the smallest changes, made consistently and consciously, can illuminate pathways you never knew existed.